The Dove Journals, a diary of flesh and faith recovered from Sebastian Dove's monastery studio after his arrest, published posthumously with annotations by Dr. Claire Beaumont. These entries span 15 years, from age 23 to 38. Part 1. The early years, June 3rd, 2010. I ate nothing today, but communion wafers stolen from St. Mark's. 7 of them, arranged in a circle on a white plate like a halo. They taste like dust and disappointment, like the body of something that was never really there. Mother called again. I didn't answer. She wants to know if I'm coming to grandfather's funeral. Archbishop Dominic is dead, and the world calls it a loss. The newspapers say pillar of the community and devoted servant of God. They don't know about the dungeon. They never do. I won't attend. Let him rot in his expensive coffin. Let them bury him in consecrated ground with full honors. It doesn't matter. I know the truth. Hell is just a dungeon that goes on forever, and he's finally locked in one he can't escape. Father Matthias sent flowers to my apartment. White roses. No note. He knows I'll understand the symbolism, purity violated, innocence with thorns. I threw them in the trash, then retrieved them, pressed one between the pages of the family Bible. Evidence, remembrance, I'm not sure which. June 15th, 2010, started sketching today. Nothing elaborate, just bodies in poses of submission and transcendence. I can't stop seeing them. The figures from the paintings in the cathedral, the martyrs with their ecstatic expressions, their wounds like flowers blooming through flesh. Saint Sebastian with his arrows, Saint Lucy with her eyes on a plate, Saint Bartholomew flayed alive, holding his own skin like a garment. They called it holy. They called it sacrifice. I think I'm beginning to understand what that means. July 22nd, 2010, met a woman at a gallery opening. Her name was Isabel. She had hands like birds, small, delicate, always in motion. We talked about Caravaggio, about the way he painted martyrdom as something almost erotic, the agony and ecstasy indistinguishable. We went back to her apartment. She wanted to make love. I couldn't. I kept thinking about positioning, about how her body would look if I arranged it just so, arms here, legs there, head tilted toward the light like she was receiving revelation. She asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. We lay in silence until she fell asleep. I left before dawn. Couldn't bear the way she breathed, so rhythmic, so alive, so temporary. September 8th, 2010. The grocery store overwhelms me. Too many choices. Too much flesh packaged in plastic, beef, pork, chicken, all of it red or pink or pale, anonymous meat that used to be something with eyes and breath. I've stopped eating animal products entirely. Not from compassion, I'm not that evolved, but from a kind of superstitious reverence. If flesh is sacred, then eating it casually feels like blasphemy. I live on bread and wine now. Sometimes cheese. Mostly just the elements of communion, consumed alone in my apartment with the lights off. This is my body. This is my blood. I say it out loud sometimes, testing how the words taste. They taste true. Part 2. First blood, November 11th, 2010. I killed a man tonight. I didn't plan it. Or maybe I'd been planning it my entire life, and tonight was just when the plan finally manifested. His name was Michael, mid-40s. He approached me at a bar in Munich, bought me drinks, asked invasive questions about my faith. When I mentioned my father was a priest, his eyes lit up. Recognition, kinship. I was an altar boy, he said, smiling. Best years of my life. I knew that smile. The way it curved, self-satisfied and nostalgic. The smile of someone who'd been touched by holy hands and called it privilege. We went to his apartment. He thought we'd have sex. Instead, I used the cable from his laptop charger. Watched his face change from arousal to confusion to terror to nothing. The nothing was beautiful. I sat with his body for 3 hours, studying the way death settled into flesh, the way the skin went waxy, the way the eyes stayed open, still looking at something only the dead can see. I didn't take him, didn't transform him, just left him there, arranged on his bed like he was sleeping. It wasn't art yet. It was just practice. November 12th, 2010, can't eat. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about Michael's face. Not the fear, the peace that came after. That moment when the struggle stopped and he became pure form. I think I found my medium. December 25th, 2010, Christmas. Father Matthias called drunk, weeping, asking me to forgive him. I asked what I should forgive. He said everything and hung up. There is no forgiveness, only transformation. I've started researching taxidermy, preservation techniques, the chemistry of embalming, how to keep flesh from decaying, from becoming just meat and rot. If I'm going to do this, and I am going to do this, it has to be perfect. It has to last. Art is eternal, or it's nothing. Part 3. The Evolution, March 3rd, 2011. The first sculpture is complete. I call him Saint Sebastian of the modern age. Railroad spikes through the palms and feet. Crown of thorns, real thorns from a blackthorn bush I found in the Alps. His face preserved in an expression of confused rapture. Left him on the Charles Bridge at dawn. Was gone before anyone found him. The news called it murder. The art critics called it genius. No one connected the two. I am both. I am neither. I am the space between violation and veneration. August 19th, 2011, Isabel called. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year. She asked if I wanted to get coffee, catch up. Her voice sounded lonely. I said yes. We met at a cafe in Vienna. She looked older lines around her eyes, gray threading through her hair. Still beautiful, but in a mortal way. Fatting. She told me she'd been following my work. The sculptures. She thought they were important, but troubling. It's like you're trying to make suffering beautiful, she said. But suffering isn't beautiful. It's just suffering. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. That suffering is the only thing that's real, the only honest emotion. That everything else, love, joy, contentment, is just anesthesia, temporary numbness before the next wound. But I just smiled and changed the subject. She touched my hand across the table, asked if I was happy. I almost laughed. Happy. What a quaint concept. November 30th, 2011, saw Father Matthias in Florence. Pure coincidence. I was scouting locations for the next piece, and there he was, walking through the Piazza della Signoria in civilian clothes, looking lost. He didn't see me. I followed him for an hour, watched him enter a church, kneel in a pew, pray with his face in his hands. I wondered what he was praying for: forgiveness, forgetfulness, or just the strength to keep being the man he was, the man who ruined me and called it love. I could have killed him then, could have made him the centerpiece of my next work, the priest, crucified, made sacred through the same violence he'd sanctified in me. But I didn't. Some subjects are too close, too personal. The art would suffer from proximity to rage. I let him pray, let him leave, let him continue his life, haunted by what he'd done or unburdened by forgetting. Either way, he's already dead, just doesn't know it yet. Part 4. Sanctuary, January 6th, 2012. Found the monastery today. Abandoned since the 1970s, half collapsed, overrun with ivy and rot. But the bones are good. The chapel is intact. The dungeon beneath the altar is perfect. I can work here, can create here, can build something that will outlast me. Sign the papers using a shell company. No one will trace it back. No one will know that the monastery has been reborn as a studio, a sanctuary, a temple to the only sacrament that matters, the sacrament of transformation. February 14th, 2012, Valentine's Day. Isabel sent flowers. Red roses this time, not white. A note. Thinking of you, hope you're well. I am not well. I am the opposite of well. I am a wound that keeps opening, a scar that refuses to heal. But I am also productive. 5 sculptures completed, 6 in progress. The work flows through me like revelation, like glossolalia, like speaking in tongues that only the dead can understand. I should probably stop accepting Isabel's kindness. She deserves better than proximity to what I'm becoming. But loneliness is its own kind of death, and I'm not ready for that mortality yet. April 4th, 2012, Isabel came to the monastery. I tried to discourage her, told her it was too remote, too difficult to reach. But she insisted, said she wanted to see where I worked, understand my process. I cleaned the studio before she arrived, hid the tools, the vats, the evidence, showed her only the chapel, the pews, the altar, the mirror where the crucifix used to hang. It's perfect, she said, awed. It's like a church for art instead of God. Art is God, I told her. The only God that answers prayers. We made love that night on the altar, her body pale against dark marble, moonlight through broken windows making her skin look ethereal, untouchable. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something other than hunger, something warm and human and terrifying in its simplicity. Then it passed. The hunger returned. I looked at her sleeping form and saw composition, arrangement, potential. She left in the morning. I haven't called her back. Part 5. The Darkest Secrets, June 6th, 2013. I think I'm in love with death. Not the dying, the struggle bores me, the begging annoys me. But the moment after, that instant when the body becomes object, when the person becomes form, when all the noise of consciousness finally goes quiet, and what remains is just shape and substance. That's when they're perfect. That's when they're mine. October 31st, 2013, Halloween. Children in costumes everywhere. Little ghosts and demons, temporary monsters playing at what have become. Caught myself watching them, studying how their bodies moved, how their faces changed with laughter. felt the familiar assessment creeping in, that clinical evaluation of form and potential. I left immediately, walked until my feet bled. There are lines even I won't cross. Children are sacred in a way nothing else is, not because of religion or morality, but because they're what I was before the transformation, before the dungeon and the diocese, and the discovery that holy men could make flesh mean anything they wanted. I will not become my grandfather. I will not become my father. This is my only absolute. December 25th, 2013, Father Matthias died today. Heart attack during midnight mass. The diocese called it tragic, said he died serving God, collapsing at the altar mid-consecration. I felt nothing, then everything, then nothing again. I should be relieved. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Can't create more broken children who'll grow into broken adults, who'll break others in turn. But I'm not relieved. I'm angry. He died easy, died quick, died thinking he was righteous. He should have suffered, should have been transformed, should have become one of my sculptures arranged in supplication, preserved in the moment of understanding what he'd done. But he's gone, and I missed my chance. Some wounds don't close just because the knife is removed. March 15th, 2014, Isabel is pregnant. She called today, voice shaking. Asked if I remembered that night in the monastery. I said yes. She said she's keeping it, doesn't expect anything from me, just thought I should know. A child. My child. A small human being made from my damaged DNA, my generational trauma, my grandfather's sins and father's failures, all encoded in chromosomes and carried forward. I told her I couldn't be involved, couldn't be a father, couldn't risk passing on what was passed to me. She cried, said she understood, asked if I at least wanted to know the sex. I said no, but I do want to know. Want to know if I've created another victim or another perpetrator. Want to know if my bloodline continues or if mercy might end it. I sent money, anonymous account, enough for medical care, education, everything a child needs to become something better than me. It's the only act of love I'm capable of. Part 6. The Last Supper Journals, January 1st, 2015, New Year. New plan. The sculptures are beautiful, but they're incomplete. Individual prayers that don't add up to theology. I need something larger. Something that encompasses everything: the violation, the faith, the transformation, the rage, the beauty, the horror. I need the Last Supper. 13 disciples. One Christ. The moment of betrayal and revelation. The instant when faith shatters and reforms into something else entirely. It will take years. Planning, preparation, perfect execution. But when it's finished, it will justify everything. Will make sense of the senseless. Will transform my trauma into transcendence. This is my great work, my magnum opus, my reason for being. July 8th, 2016, Peter is complete. The rock upon which I build my church. His flesh reinforced with steel, skin sealed to last centuries. He sits at the table, hands spread in question or supplication or both. 1 down, 12 to go. The work is consuming me. I barely eat anymore, just bread and wine, the communion I perform alone. I've lost weight, gained hallucinations. Sometimes I see my grandfather in the shadows of the monastery. Sometimes I see the dove from my childhood, still bleeding, still trying to fly with severed wings. The line between vision and psychosis is getting thin, but maybe that's necessary. Maybe madness is the price of making something true. November 11th, 2017. Isabel sent a photo. A child 4 years old, dark hair, my eyes. The note said, "Her name is Grace. She asks about her father sometimes. I tell her you're an artist, that you create beautiful things. She wants to be like you when she grows up." I burned the photo, then retrieved it from the ashes, singed but intact. Grace, what a name, what a concept, what a cosmic joke. I have no grace, only hunger and hands that know how to make dead things look divine. But somewhere in the world, there's a child with my eyes who wants to create, who hasn't been ruined yet, who might become something I never could. I sent more money, a trust fund, enough for her to never need anything, never be vulnerable to predators who smell desperation. It's inadequate. It's everything I have. May 20th, 2018, 8 disciples finished. 5 to go. Then myself. The monastery smells like preservation fluid and incense. I burn sage constantly, trying to cover the scent of what I'm doing. But it seeps into everything, the walls, my clothes, my skin. I smell like a mortuary, like a church, like both. The dreams are getting worse. Every night, the same vision. I'm 7 years old, holding scissors, and my grandfather is the dove. I cut and cut, but he keeps breathing, keeps smiling, keeps saying, "This is love, this is grace, this is what you were made for." I wake up screaming. The work continues. September 3rd, 2018. Claire Beaumont entered my life today. Doctoral student, art historian. She sees the work the way I see it, understands the grammar, the syntax, the theology written in flesh. I want to show her everything. Want to reveal the process, the pain, the purpose. Want her to witness the completion of the Last Supper and understand that it's not murder, it's translation. Taking suffering and making it meaningful. But I know how this ends. I've seen it in dreams. She's either the final piece or the witness who destroys everything. Maybe both. Maybe that's what I've been building toward all along, the person who sees clearly enough to stop me, brave enough to swing the candelabra, human enough to refuse transformation. Maybe she's my salvation. Or maybe I'm just tired, so tired, and looking for permission to stop. October 15th, 2018, 13 disciples complete. The table is almost ready. I just need the 14th piece, the witness, the Magdalene, the one who understands. Claire agreed to visit the monastery. She doesn't know what she's agreeing to. Doesn't know she's walking into her own transfiguration. I've made mistakes with her. Been sloppy. The exhaustion is catching up. I can feel my precision slipping, my control fraying. But it doesn't matter. The work is nearly complete. After this, I can rest, can stop creating, can stop transforming pain into beauty and just stop. This is my last entry before the completion. Whatever happens next, whether I succeed or fail, whether the Last Supper is finished or remains forever incomplete, at least I tried. At least I made something from the ruin. At least the dove, once severed, learned to fly. Part 7. Prison Journals, November 20th, 2018. They found me. Claire escaped. The Last Supper remains incomplete. 13 disciples, and an empty chair where the Magdalene should sit. I failed. But failure is its own kind of art, isn't it? The sculpture that remains unfinished, the prayer that goes unanswered, the transformation interrupted by a woman with a candelabra, and the will to survive. She's more beautiful than anything I could have created. The negative space that defines the composition, the absence that makes presence visible. I think I loved her. Not the way normal people love, I'm not capable of that. But the way an artist loves his greatest work, the piece that got away, the masterpiece that refused to be mastered. February 14th, 2019, Valentine's Day. Isabel sent a letter. Grace is 7 now, learning to paint. She made me something, a watercolor of a white dove in flight, wings spread against a yellow sun. The dove is whole, intact, flying. I cried for the first time in 20 years. The guards thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was finally breaking open, the wound becoming a door instead of a dungeon. I keep the painting on my wall, the only art I've ever received instead of created. June 3rd, 2020, 10 years since grandfather's death. A decade of creating, destroying, transforming pain into meaning, or meaning into pain. I'm no longer sure which. The psychiatrists ask if I regret it. The killing, the sculptures, the Last Supper left incomplete. I tell them I regret the mistakes, getting sloppy with Claire, not measuring the dose correctly, using the wrong restraints. But the work itself, no, the work was necessary. The work was prayer in the only language I knew how to speak. They don't understand. They think I'm insane. They're probably right. But insanity and insight are closer than people want to admit. December 25th, 2023. Father Matthias has been dead 10 years. Grandfather, 13. The men who made me are gone, and still I remain. Still I create. Still I translate suffering into something that might resemble meaning. I draw constantly. Thousands of sketches, doves in every stage of destruction and resurrection. Tables with 13 occupied chairs and 1 empty. Claire's face frozen in that moment of understanding. The guards sell my drawings online. They fetch thousands. The art world calls it outsider art now. Trauma work. The final expressions of a broken mind. They're not wrong, but they're not right either. I'm not broken. I'm just cracked enough for the light to get through. And the light shows everything, the beauty, the horror, the terrible intimacy of flesh-made meaning. This is my legacy. This is my Last Supper. Incomplete, imperfect, true, epilogue, the legacy final entry, written 3 days before Sebastian Dove's death, March 15th, 2025. Grace is 12 now. Isabel sends photos every year. She has my face, my hands, my eyes that see too much. But she has Isabel's kindness, her capacity for joy, her ability to create without destroying. She wants to be an artist, a real one, the kind who makes life more beautiful instead of making death meaningful. I wrote her a letter, told her the truth about who I am, what I did, told her she carries my DNA, but not my damage, that she can choose to create differently. to see suffering and respond with compassion instead of composition. I told her about the dove, how I cut it into pieces because I didn't know how else to understand mercy, how I've spent 30 years trying to make that dove fly again through art and atrocity, beauty and blood. I told her she doesn't have to fix what I broke, doesn't have to redeem me or justify me or understand me, just has to be herself, whole, intact, flying. The letter is sealed. I've asked Isabel not to give it to Grace until she's 18, old enough to handle the weight of knowing, young enough to still become something better than her father. This is my final work, not a sculpture or a supper or a statement written in flesh. Just a letter, just words on paper, just a father trying to tell his daughter that love, real love, means letting her fly free of him. I'm tired now, so tired. The drawing on the wall, Grace's dove, glows in the fluorescent light. Wings spread, sun rising, the bird ascending towards something that might be heaven or might just be sky. But either way, it's flying. I close my eyes and see them all, the 13 disciples, Peter to Judas, Claire with her candelabra raised, my grandfather in his crimson robes, my father with his scissors, the boy I was, holding a severed dove and learning the wrong lessons about mercy. And beyond them all, a table with 14 chairs, 13 occupied, 1 empty, waiting. Sebastian Dove died in his sleep on March 18th, 2025. His body was cremated, his ashes scattered in an unmarked location. His letter to Grace was delivered on her 18th birthday in 2031. Grace Beaumont. She took her mother's maiden name, became a painter. She works primarily in watercolors, creating large-scale pieces depicting birds in flight, whole, intact, ascending. Her artist statement reads, "My father taught me, without meaning to, that we are not bound by the sins that made us, that trauma can be acknowledged without being replicated, that the dove, once severed, can be painted whole again, not as erasure of what was done, but as proof that creation doesn't require destruction, that beauty doesn't need violence to be true." Her work has been exhibited in galleries across Europe. Critics call it restorative art, counter-narrative to trauma, the dove ascending. She has never visited her father's grave, has never sought out his sculptures or studied his techniques. But on the wall of her studio in Paris, she keeps 2 things, her childhood watercolor of a dove and a photograph of 13 empty chairs around a table, taken after the police cleared the monastery. The 14th chair sits slightly apart, as if pushed back by someone who decided to stand up and walk away. Underneath, in her own handwriting, "This is my inheritance. This is what I choose not to continue. The dove flies. The dove is free. Amen."